Hello everyone, and welcome to another unit review, and today we are looking at CG Fina. The source of a lot of controversy in the FFBE universe, and that was mainly because there were a lot of Ayaka fans, and then CG Fina came along and just ruined everything. And there were tidal waves and mass destruction and great bouts of unhappiness and... Anyway, the important thing is that we are here to look at CG Fina in the 7-star form and see if she is as good or bad as a lot of people have come to just kind of talk about recently. So first of all, let's talk about CG Fina. She is a healer and a bit of a damage dealer, but more importantly, she is kind of the queen of auto-revive, which is pretty good. Unless your enemy dispels it, and it's not very good. But anyway, first of all, we talk about her Trust Mastery. Her Trust Mastery is a 10 defense, 24 magic, 51 spirit hat with 100% ailment resistance. It's basically a better version of the ribbon in the game, and there isn't much better than this thing. Not in terms of a hat, anyway. Especially it has a very nice high spirit stat. But now let's, well, first of all, no, let's keep going. No, let's not. Okay. Before we get into the little bit of the controversial stuff in her 7-star, let's take a look at her sprite. First of all, I think her sprite is absolutely amazing. Didn't get the biggest visual improvement, but it looks pretty cool still. Basically just more flair, and of course we all know her limit burst, which is famous for that kiss. But in general, CG Fina, nicely developed sprite. Now you can take a look at mine's stats. I was going to do a CG Laswell 7-star, but I don't have CG Laswell yet in his 7-star. I may have to find one. I would like to do a video on CG Laswell very quickly. But this, you can see, I've pretty much maxed out her spirit, as well as a few other stats have gotten a lot to it. So yeah, those are the basic stats I can get. Plus, with her TMR, she's pretty much ailment resistant. She has a good amount of natural light resistance. Now let's talk about her super TMR. Because when this was shown off, there are a lot of people that poo-pooed it. Fair enough. At first glance, it doesn't look like anything special compared to some of the other stuff we've seen out here, and it is a loss of materia slot. But let's consider the good things before we talk about the bad things. First of all, what is it? Well, it's a materia. It's 2900 HP heal per turn with a 1.2 times mod. That's a pretty strong regeneration right there. It also recovers 12% MP per turn. Fascinating. That's actually kind of good in a way. Healers can go through a lot of MP, so if you have about 600 MP, roughly about 72 MP per turn, that's really, really strong for a healer. Or anyone, potentially. Also, you gain 2.5 limit burst crystals per turn. That's just a good limit burst crystal gain on top of everything else we've talked about, but it also has a single target 80% to attack, defense, magic, and spirit. Now, I've talked a lot about this recently, so I don't want to talk too much about it right now, but dispel is a thing, and a lot of enemies are just constantly dispelling you, if not dispelling you ever so many turns. It does make the buffing approach a little less safe to do, especially if you spend 99 MP on Ignis's 150% boost, and the next turn it gets dispelled. Well, you kind of wasted a turn, and you could potentially die if you focused on that instead of debuffing the enemy instead. The thing I like about this is the fact that it is an 80% boost to all stats, And the way I read this is that it is constant, meaning that it cannot be debuffed or dispelled. That's actually potentially really strong if the meta does start shifting towards dispelling. If a lot of enemies start dispelling, it would be nice to have a constant 80% buff on any unit, not to mention all the HP and MP healing, plus gaining limit burst crystals per turn. You could put this on almost any unit and they would get a beneficial bonus, not just CG Fina. So I think this has more potential to it, unless if it is dispelled and it's completely gone, then it would be bad. But since it's not listed as a last for so many turns, that means that it is constantly up. And that's really incredibly potentially could become one of the more valuable materials. And as we all know, the community has a way of tending to fly off the handle about certain things and undervaluating some things. So CG Fina Super TMR might be better than a lot of people are giving it credit for, but only time will really tell. Thankfully, talking about her 7-star kit is pretty quick because I have talked about it before, but I'm going to specifically talk about it now. For equipping her own TMR, she gets an extra 20% to attack, defense, magic, and spirit. Good. 30% light resistance and gaining 1 limit burst crystal per turn. For equipping one of my favorite TMRs, just a better version of Ribbon with a high spirit, this is great. This is just extra bonus. Now her cooldown abilities I'm less convinced about. First of all, for 120 MP, available 1 on turn 1, but a 3-turn cooldown. Self 3-turn auto revive with an 80% HP, and an AoE revive with 100% HP. So she essentially protects herself and revives the entire team. On a 3-turn cooldown, it's not too expensive. It's essentially a better version of just a AoE revive, because it's also giving herself auto revive. So it kind of protects your healer in case something bad happens. Now, an auto revive with 80% HP doesn't seem amazing, but it's not bad either. Now, she also gets 20% dark resistance when equipped with a rod, and 20% dark resistance when equipped with a whip, and 20% light resistance when equipped with a staff, and 20% light resistance when equipped with a bow. Now, light definitely, unfortunately, gets kind of the short end of the stick here, because if you do equip her with a bow, you can't equip her with a staff as well, whereas you can equip her with a rod and a whip. You can get some dark and some light resistance total, especially if you have her TMR equipped. It's not bad, it's not the greatest ability ever. And for 150 MP, her other cooldown, available turn 1, 7-turn cooldown, an AoE 2500 HP heal with 18 times mod, and an AoE 3-turn auto revive with 80%. This is just a general heal up and auto revive on the entire party. Now, this is really good, providing that you don't get dispelled. If you get dispelled, then your auto revive is gone. But if you want to have that big turn where you do get the HP heal at that modifier with that much HP being healed, and you get an auto revive, it's kind of good. It's kind of good. But again, depends if you get dispelled. She gets an extra 20% to defense, and she gets an 80% modifier for a couple of her attack abilities, and a 25% chance to counter magic damage with a brand new counter that is an AoE 20 MP fill and an AoE 1 limit burst crystal fill. Now it can only trigger twice in a turn, but 40 MP and 2 limit burst crystals for everyone. It's a nice little bonus, and it's a nice little counter. On top of the fact that CG Fina kind of does have some really nice counters in her kit. I generally like it. And we can't forget the last improvement to her limit burst. One of the things we all really like for the Kiss. Anyway. Now, damage-wise, it only goes up to a maximum from a 6-star to a 7-star of 940% to 1040%. But the minor increase in percentages does kind of make sense. A, her damage is not a big deal, it's just kind of something nice to go with the AoE auto revive. But the big thing is that is to be considered is that it is not a magic-based attack, it is a spirit-based attack. So if you were to, I don't know, use or put a higher spirit stat, which a 7-star can easily get to, it's automatically doing a lot more damage. Then you increase the percentage, then it's doing even more damage. And the other big thing is that the light and dark resistance goes from 50% to 65%. And now that's even at level 1. A 65% light and dark resistance down, that's really good. That's incredible debuffing. And of course, the thing that you really use her limit burst for is 100% HP auto revive that lasts 3 turns. For the entire party. So in general, CG Fina was a strong unit before and a strong unit after. But I do want to make one more mention of something else, because CG Fina is kind of a unique unit. Because we talk about Ayaka and Santa Rosalia as being really strong units. And yes, that is absolutely true. But there is more potential at this point for CG Fina in the future. One, she still has enhancements where Ayaka has had hers and they've come and gone, so we have to wait and see what CG Fina, and probably there'll be some kind of a boost to a spirit, and possibly to her best thing, which is element resistance. Or one of her best things, which is element resistance, in which case CG Fina could become a lot more powerful. But there is also the upgrade events. Now, we had a story event recently where you could get an extra ability for CG Fina, and I don't remember, there it is. An extra 30% to earth and dark resistance and 5% MP per turn. And we could see another one of those events happen, possibly. Possibly. Really kind of depends, but we'll see. And there is the exclusive skill equipment from doing regular Fina's character upgrade story. Her bow, which in English name is Girl of Rebirth, gives an extra 40% MP to her. Her robes will also give her Pierced Heart, 100% to Sleep, Silence, and Paralyze Resist. Now, obviously that's not that great if you have her TMR, but still. And her accessory, Eternal Bloom, gives her an extra 5% MP per turn. She could potentially just regenerate mass amounts MP per turn if you have everything that's exclusive to her. But in general, CG Fina is still just really strong, and we could see more events like that in the future. One more thing I wanted to check, level 10 out of level 30, so there's a lot of room for her improvement on her limit burst. So of course we will end this with a bit of a showcase showing her off. Now obviously I don't have mine geared for magic, so if I do a magic skill like Ultima, it's really not going to do that much. But I made a point about this last time, and I want to make a point about this right now. The fact is that when you're using someone like CG Fina, you obviously want her for her limit burst, which thankfully stayed at a total of only 27 limit burst crystals, which is still pretty affordable. CG Fina also just has some great things in her kit that were originally in there. All element protection and boosting the party, MP regeneration for the entire party, being able to heal HP as well as curing status ailments, AoE auto revive, HP gain plus limit burst crystals. CG Fina had a really strong kit before, so it's kind of understandable why her 7-star was not greatly improved than it already was. Giving auto revive and healing 14. I accidentally clicked through that. It's okay. What was I going to say? I mean, healing for 1400 HP pretty much all characters and giving them auto revive at the same time is just very strong. It is very strong. And one of the other things that I really like about CG Fina as a healer is that she does have Entrust, so she can give 100% of her cheaper limit burst to a unit who has a more expensive limit burst and basically fill them up quicker. It's one of the things I've used many times, and I'm sure I'll use it many more. It's just this really strong, wonderful ability that I was really unhappy when I never got a Titus, because Entrust is just so good at giving limit burst to other units. So skipping the animation because I don't know, OBS isn't running that well today. It's a pretty strong extra amount of damage for someone who really isn't a damage dealer. See if we can't charge the limit burst one more time. Not like that. So we'll have to go back out and go back in, because I would like to demo her with a boost. Because that is 1040, and we can still give her 150% boost to her spirit. So we will do that. But as I have talked about before, the thing that you primarily want any of the top grade healers to do is be healing, putting auto revive on, things that are really important. You don't necessarily want them to be doing damage. If you are going to do damage, you want damage to be a side effect. You really want your healers to be doing a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I credit CG Fina more for doing better damage as a actual damage dealing healer, because her limit burst is doing damage, but that's not really what we want. It's also doing elemental debuff, that's nice too, but that's not also what we want. What we really want her for is that AoE auto revive that is also doing damage. If you are using a healer to just do damage in a turn, it doesn't feel like good value. What does feel like good value is being able to do damage and something that's healer related. In your party, you have damage dealers already, and you have those damage dealers for a reason. And it's a very clear reason. That's their job. The healer's job is to do that. And many of trials and tribulations that I've had recently, I've never been had too much time where a healer has had a lot of downtime. And CG Fina has a lot of different things that she can do, but most of the time she's healing. Same with Ayaka. I don't want them to be doing damage unless they're doing something to support the party. And thankfully, that is the limit burst. But more importantly, it's also beneficial because it is not using a magic-based stat, it is using a spirit-based stat, which is what CG Fina is good at. So considering the amount of damage she did, that's pretty decent for a healer, giving us auto revive plus the debuff to light and darkness. And at a 65%, if you have an Orlando right now in your party, that 65% actually looks pretty darn good. So that's all for this video. In the future, I hope to find a CG Laswell that I can use that is 7-star, because currently I don't have one. I just have my 6-star, and RNG has not been super kind. But until next time, when we take a look at our next 7-star, whoever it may be. Yeah, this has been a review of a 7-star healer. That's all I got. See you next time.